You're trapped in a ghost town in the middle of nowhere and hunted by a masked killer with a chainsaw. There's nowhere to run. Your group is a pile of meat shields, and if you're caught, you'll be killed in the most sadistic ways. When you're facing an angry chainsaw-wielding killer and the kill count is rapidly increasing, what would you do? In this video, we're going over every mistake made, see how we can beat Leatherface, and help every character escape with their lives in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Melody and Dante are social media influencers who've come to the ghost town of Harlow to breathe new life into it. Melody's brought her sister Lila, and Dante has his girlfriend Ruth. Hoping to make a bunch of money, they've come out here to auction off the old buildings, but little do they know, this town's empty for good reason. Seeing a problematic flag on the orphanage, Melody and Dante let themselves in to get rid of it when they meet Ginny, an old lady who claims to run the orphanage. Dante does the right thing and decides to let the cops deal with her, leaving when it becomes clear that she's squatting. The cops come and Ginny's having a panic attack, with her ominous son helping her to the van, and Ruth tagging along. Rushing to the hospital, it's clear that they're not going to be fast enough, and she stops breathing. Panicking, Ginny's son keeps trying to gas her up with oxygen, and a deputy has had enough, stopping him and getting his arm split in two, getting quickly stabbed in the neck with his own bones, and then shooting the sheriff in the neck. This is absolutely the worst trained officer in Texas. This grieving son, who is mentally unstable, is trying to keep his mom alive, and though this deputy had no reason to think that this guy is strong enough to split him in two, that's exactly what happened. He should have tried to talk him down and de-escalate, instead of touching this dude's hand unprompted. Back in town, Melody and Dante are helping the city bank auction off the old buildings, while Lila decides to go bond with Richter, the gun-carrying town mechanic. She shares her experience surviving a school shooting, and Melody comes to grab her to ditch the auction right after learning that Ginny died. Waking up covered in blood, Ruth sees that she's not the only one that survived. A dangerous killer is just outside, and she's trapped in a locked van. Okay, now she could be in a far worse spot. Her two choices are to grab the gun or the radio. Now, our key advantage is that this guy doesn't know we're still alive, so we have to act fast and grab the gun, flipping off the safety and having it at the ready. Then, whilst keeping our eye on the killer, grab the radio and call for help. Instead, she grabs just the radio and whispers into dispatch. Unfortunately, help isn't coming, and the killer has just finished getting his new mask courtesy of his foster mother. Coughing himself awake, the sheriff's still barely alive, making just enough noise to alert the killer. Ruth plays dead while he bashes the sheriff's head in with the oxygen tank. Now, if she were daring, she could get ready to yoink out of there and jog back to the town. If she were paying attention to the killer, she'd see that he's out of shape, and it's obvious that this guy probably doesn't come out of his mom's basement too often. She might be able to outrun him to the town and get to the armed mechanic who could rescue her. All she needs to do is bide her time. A close-range encounter will reduce her chances of survival to zero, so she needs to arm herself if possible and put as much distance between them as she can. Rather than doing this obvious strategy, she peeks her head out the window literally 20 seconds after the killer seemingly leaves, and gets easily overpowered and shanked. That's one down, and a bus full more to go. Back in Harlow, the mechanic is pissed that the lady died, and blames Melody and Dante. Unless they can show him proof that they own the orphanage, he's gonna keep their only means of escape, and leave them as sitting ducks. I guess this town has zero police presence since the guy manning the radio calls up Sally, a retired police officer and the last survivor of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for help. With her 12 gauge packed up and ready to go, at least some kind of help is coming, though at this point, it might be too late. Dante's unable to find a deed, so they trespass on the orphanage and find it in a lockbox. Turns out, they were in the wrong this whole time. Hearing a door bang, it looks like the killer has returned home. Dante gets drawn in like a moth to a flame with some rattling pans when he sees Leatherface in the reflection. This guy blames them for his mother's death, and he quickly dispatches of Dante with a butcher's knife. Hearing the noise, Melody creaks down the stairs and sees Dante's body. running to hide in a closet to escape the killer. Now she's on his turf, and she has no idea how she's gonna survive this. Opening the closet, he grabs a dress and starts to sniff it, mourning his mother, but not noticing Melody hiding out. Luckily, he hears the commotion outside, and it looks like he's gonna go after the bus. Just like the last girl, Melody doesn't even wait 20 seconds before leaving her hiding spot and looking out a window. With heavy rain pouring, it looks like the party's over and Melody's trapped in the killer's house. Hearing his footsteps, she slides under the bed while he takes a sledgehammer and goes to town on the drywall. Dante wakes up from hearing the bangs and stumbles out into the rain, still barely alive. The mechanic runs out to help and asks, "Who did this to you?" But with half his face ripped off, Dante can't answer and dies from blood loss. Well, Richter, I think it's pretty obvious what happened. You know Ginny's dead, you know she has a large, very strong son, and you know that Dante came out of the orphanage. You don't have to be a genius to put 2 and 2 together and realize it takes someone very strong to rip a guy's face open like that. Seizing the moment to be a hero, Richter the mechanic cocks his Glock and gets ready to raid the orphanage on his own. Now, hold up, Richter. You forgot that there's a bus full of meat shields completely defenseless because you took away their keys. Before we do anything, we need to make sure that we're prepared by making a pit stop at the shop, grabbing the AR, and giving them the keys. If I were him, I'd be yoinking out of there, because I wouldn't know that Melody's still trapped with the killer, who is gearing up with his chainsaw. But I suppose Richter is a better man, and he decides to take the 1v1 and goes after the killer on the killer's home turf. Cautiously, he clears the house and is about to get jump scared in the bedroom. Melody sees this and uses her foot to angle the mirror to let Richter know that the killer is behind a door, with a hammer at the ready. Richter notices and engages him while having a huge weight disadvantage, getting his knee caved in and hobbling to pin the killer up to the wall. Though it was a very valiant effort, he gets stabbed in the neck and gives the keys to Melody before having his head caved in. My man Richter came in unprepared and it cost him his life. He had multiple firearms at his disposal, and instead of getting together a SWAT team made up of some of the partygoers to have his meat shields, or even waiting for help to come, his ego got him killed. Melody carefully picks up the very loud and jangly keys and slowly peeks out of the room. He's right across the hallway, and rather than even looking for Richter's gun, she chances climbing down a bunch of old rickety stairs when the killer catches her and downs her with a throwing hammer, trapping her in the floorboards and revving his chainsaw menacingly. Screaming in fear for her life, she crawls under the floor and gets trapped in a corner by Leatherface's chainsaw. Luckily, as the killer finds her, Lila comes in clutch with MVP meat shield of the movie and pulls her out of the vent. But if Melody were using her brain, she'd know that a chainsaw isn't exactly a lightsaber. It's made of metal, and though this wooden floor is perfect for it, it isn't meant for cutting more metal. So what she needs to do is find a big group of pipes to use as cover and vent right out of there like Among Us. Covered in sewage and with a sliced up leg, Melody and Lila manage to make it to the bus, with the killer right on their tail. They're about to be home free when the bus creaks to a halt, and the driver gets out to check it out. Not knowing the danger, the guy's head comes flying back like a basketball. And the bank lady can do nothing but watch as she leaves the door completely open, and the entire bus of people gets trapped with a psychotic chainsaw-wielding killer. Instead of breaking the bottles of alcohol to make weapons, they all whip out their phones to record, but the killer can't care less about getting cancelled and goes to town, turning everybody into puzzle pieces and filling the bus up with blood. Hold on now. If this bank lady had informed people of the danger, they might have been able to avoid this absolute massacre and stop this maniac once and for all. If I were her, I might have told them the truth and said someone was dead. Using Dante's body as evidence, we might have been able to convince them, and we could have put an end to this while Leatherface was still vulnerable. That's the entire bus down, and 3 left to go. Using an escape hatch and sprinting out into the rain, they run into Sally, who decides to use them as bait so she can end Leatherface once and for all. Screaming their heads off, Melody and Lila are locked in the truck, while Sally, Sarah Connors her way into the house, which, side note, makes no sense to me since they didn't see him exit the bus and the girls came from the bus. Somehow finding him in his room, He's completely unarmed and at her mercy, and she gloats while he picks up his chainsaw and just waltzes out of the room. She lets him get so close to her car that he grabs Lila through the window and is about to cut her up when she scares him off with a shotgun. Then he goes into an alley, demonstrating some insane speed, rushing her to where she doesn't miss one point-blank shot, but she misses two and gets easily overpowered and sliced in two with his chainsaw. Now, her hubris and ego cost her this win, and now she won't ever get proper revenge for her friends. She had several opportunities to kill this guy point blank, and didn't seem to realize that the shotgun was the only thing keeping this a level playing field. Once she was out of ammo, she just had no chance. Wanting vengeance, Melody drives right at him, and thinking fast, he throws his chainsaw at the windshield, breaking her concentration and sending them into the mechanic shop. In the aftermath of the crash, Melody's pinned to the vehicle and yells at her sister to run and survive. Accepting her fate, she's about to get sliced when Lila shows up with the AR, clearly not knowing how firearms work and jamming the gun. With Leatherface, an overweight, barely left his mom's attic dude carrying a 20-pound chainsaw, manages to gain on her as she runs for her life. She's pushed to the ground, and just as he's about to turn her into lunch meat, Sally manages to shoot him twice from 15 feet away with her shotgun, scaring him away. With her last breath, Sally lifts the shotty and convinces her to go fight Leatherface on her own. With zero firearms knowledge and no upper body strength, she takes up the shotgun and goes into the theater to kill him once and for all. Stalking the abandoned theater, she hears some creaks and decides to go towards it, realizing it's just a distraction far too late, as Leatherface tackles her into a pool of water, where she somehow manages to climb out first, taking a nice little rest before he jumps after her, grabbing his chainsaw and throwing it at her like it's a Beyblade, leaving her to pathetically crawl towards the shotgun right before he kicks it away from her. About to be sliced up yet again, she rolls over, ready to accept fate, when she sees that Melody's on top of Leatherface, buying Lila just enough time to shotgun him twice, while Melody uppercuts him with the chainsaw. The pair watching in horror as his body sinks to the bottom of the water. Seemingly the victors, they take their sweet time having their Tesla auto-drive them away, before Leatherface busts Melody's window and cuts her in two. Now, having such little spatial awareness after what they just went through, they didn't notice this giant lumbering man sneaking up on them. I would have floored it out of there and made reports with the FBI, DOD, all of the three-letter agencies who would have definitely been able to come and take care of this guy easily. There's mountains of evidence, and having a full bus of high-profile influencers and investors just disappear after going into this town would have sparked an investigation leading to a manhunt and subsequent arrest of Leatherface. So many poor decisions were made, and because of this, the twisted villain of the story came out on top. But what are your thoughts? Would you survive Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Let me know with a comment down below. Thanks for watching this video, leave a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.